You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is
Tobias.
And this week we are talking about the Phantom Black Dogs, or known by a million other names that I'll get to here in just a moment. But before we do that, Tobias, how was your weekend?
Oh boy, I had a great weekend. Thank you for asking. I went to beautiful Old Brick Gardens in Madison, Wisconsin with my wife Emily, because they were having what they call their Blooming Butterflies exhibit. And this is where you can go inside, and they have a conservatory that always has, a bunch of like tropical plants, and they'll literally just have like quail walking around in there, and some songbirds and whatnot. But for this, they had a bunch of butterflies running around. And so you could go in there while flying around, and you could see all these different kinds of butterflies, and they're just out. So, one could land on you. I think that's pretty rare. But yeah, they're, excuse me, they are around, and you can see them, and they're beautiful, and it was very, very nice. And then we went for a walk in the gardens outside, and I saw all kinds of other cool little critters, frogs and dragonflies and such, and it was just a great little day. And really beyond that, boy, I've just been working on this book. Richard Estep and I are working on this Mothman book for Llewellyn, and it's taken up a lot of my time, as it should. It's a fucking book. If they were easy, everybody would do it, right? Even though it feels like everybody is. But yeah, so that's taken up a lot of my time. I'm at the point where I'm kind of reviewing some of my cases and working them into the narrative that's sort of forming out of all of this research, kind of tying the present to the past, which is very interesting because there is a large number of commonalities between winged humanoid or Mothman sightings. Even though a lot of people don't want to hear this, it's the fucking truth. So just grow up and deal with it. Of Mothman sightings in places other than the Ohio River Valley. So you get out into the Great Lakes region, or really coast to coast, almost, honestly, because I've got reports from all over that are basically the same. If you take out, if you sort of just distill everything down to the core phenomenon, like you take out all of the stuff that Keel added to make it a more exciting story, and just look at this phenomenon of people encountering this scary winged humanoid, then I've got reports that are the same, like exactly the damn same, from all over the place, as recently as earlier this year. So it's a fucking thing. And then if you look at the other phenomena reported in those areas, so if you sort of broaden your scope again, right, you can find a lot of similar stuff to what Keel had included in the Mothman prophecies, other humanoid sightings and UFOs and such. And what I found is a good number of cases too, where the Mothman witness had also seen a UFO or something, and that I think is another commonality with some of those older sightings. So it's interesting. It's interesting work, and I think that people who are open-minded and have an honest sort of intellectual curiosity about this stuff are really gonna enjoy it. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Well, I'm right there with you. Do you think we'll ever distance from the Silver Bridge omen theory, or do you think it's just going to persist forever?
I think we're working on it.
Definitely working on it. Yeah.
Every time I'm in something about Mothman, they always ask me about that, and I always give them my honest opinion that no, it doesn't have fucking anything to do with anything. And that was a coincidence used to contribute to a narrative, to sell books, basically, to make a better story. And that just is what it is. So
Yeah.
I think that we'll see the pendulum swing. Well, fuck, to put it another way, some of the biggest proponents of that, some of the people I think who most desperately need for that narrative to persist, they're not getting any younger. And we're,
Younger than them?
we're taking over slowly but surely, which is the natural progression. And somebody younger than me is going to take over one day.
Right.
And that's good. That's how it's supposed to fucking work.
Yeah. And hopefully what the people that are younger than us are, by that time so far removed from that
Right.
generation, which sounds bad. It's funny because I can't see you, but I can definitely see you choosing your words wisely.
Right. I'm just like, how do I say this in a way that isn't going to
Let's
get
be
me any death
diplomatic.
threats on the internet?
Right.
So, but it just is what it is. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things we see in this industry quite a bit, honestly, is people who just never let go. They never retire. And they try to act as gatekeeper until the day they fucking die.
Yeah.
And that seems like such a bleak, pointless existence to me of just being angry all the time and negative and toxic, and I don't get it, but it is very prevalent, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
It's just, I want to retire someday. I want to, seriously, I want to at like a normal retirement age, just be like, cool, I'm done, and I'm going to do things that I think are fun. And if that includes writing about the paranormal, awesome. But otherwise I'm fucking retired. Leave me alone, know?
Well, and it's kind of a testament to your own research that when you do get to that point, you reach that age that you can feel good about leaving it in the hands of the new generation, right? That you contributed enough to contribute to them and their findings, instead of dying on a particular hill, especially when it comes to the unknown. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think that part of what we see is an unfortunate tendency of some people to commit too much to this field. And the problem with that is you get to the end of your life and you look back and you don't have the things that other people have who didn't spend their whole life doing this. But you also don't have any more answers than when you started. And you have to wonder what the fucking point was. You have to wonder what it was all for. You're like, I gave my whole life for this. And now, I barely have enough money to fucking retire. Have I wasted my whole life? I think that they get mad. And even if they won't admit it, and I think that the quest for relevancy, or the insistence that they remain relevant in this field long past their expiration date, is due in large part to what amounts to having devoted far too much of your life, personality, and identity to the paranormal.
Oh yeah.
So don't do that. Have other hobbies. Have a family. Be active in your community. Seriously, you'll be so much fucking happier than if you do this all the time.
Yep. No, I agree. It is crazy, but no, it's a rabbit hole when you get into trying to put it all into like one book. It's like it's almost kind of impossible. Let's be honest.
I'm struggling with that because what we don't want to do is rewrite the Mothman prophecies.
Exactly.
So you want to try to include everything, or I should say, you want to try to include enough to sort of catch people up so they're familiar with the foundation of this phenomenon, at least in terms of how it exists in popular culture. So you have to talk about the Mothman prophecies, and you have to talk about it a lot, but you can't, the book would be way too long. You can't just rewrite the entirety of the Mothman prophecies when we, now have another decade of other sighting material that actually outweighs everything that happened in Point Pleasant by a significant fucking amount,
Yeah.
to try to get into this book too. It's a balancing act.
Yeah. That's what I try to explain to people when I'm doing, when I go on a show and they want to talk about Mothman, that's fine. But then they'll be like, well, what about Indrid Cold? And it's like, oh my God. So not only do I have to try to fit all of the Mothman in this little time crunch, but now you want to talk to me about Indrid, which includes me telling you the origin story and then telling you my part in it and in what I've actually experienced with it, into this little chunk of time. It's very difficult, because you have to kind of, and that was one thing that I had learned. I think I had said that when I went to the Mothman workshop, was that I kind of learned what it was like to watch somebody who's not into these topics listen to these lectures and listen to people
Right.
talk about this stuff. You got to remember that, like, not everybody that might pick up your book or pick up your podcast or pick up your whatever is familiar with any of these people or any of these things or any of these events. Like, they're
Yes.
coming at it at zero, and you have to talk to people. If you want new people interested, if you really want to break the stigma, you have to talk to them like they've absolutely never heard of the word Mothman before. And it's hard.
No, you're absolutely right. My main goal when I am writing is to make my work accessible.
Yep.
So, I've got a great many books written by very intelligent, talented researchers that read like textbooks, and they're probably the most popular books that nobody ever actually fucking reads, because who wants to sit down and read a textbook?
Right.
Very few people.
Yeah.
And so one of my goals, and I know Richard would say the same thing, having read his work and obviously hung out with him quite a bit at this point, is what we're aiming to do is make this phenomenon accessible to, like you said, people who have never heard of it, and as well as still informing anybody who might not have all of the pieces that we've gathered, and that's the frustrating thing about this is I meet so many people who have so many fucking opinions on Mothman, and they're not familiar with my work, or they're peripherally familiar with it, or something. And it's like, well, look, like, I don't want to sound like some elitist douchebag, but if you don't have all the information I have, then your opinion isn't as valid on this,
Yeah.
frankly. It just is what it is, right?
Yep. No, I totally understand that. It's a balancing act between, well, being diplomatic but also still wanting to not come across as a douchebag. Because I get it. I don't know everybody that does everything about everything,
Right.
It's just kind of not possible to know that. So, like, I can't name all the Bigfoot bros. I don't know who the fuck they
God,
are.
no.
Even most of the UFO bros, I don't give a fuck about most of these people, right now. And we're not really going to talk about it, but, like, I don't know. Right now, people are talking about the one fucking guy that just wrote a book and it got leaked or whatever. Oh God,
I
can't
don't
remember his
know.
name. He's really famous in the UFO community, and I really genuinely can't remember his name. Anyway, look, obviously I don't follow him, right? So
Right. I
don't
don't.
care.
I also don't follow names. I have authors
Just
that I
don't.
like. And if I'm researching a specific subject, then I'll try to find, because you and I both at this point, like, know enough people in this field where if there is a subject that I need to research, I know who to get a hold of, and they'll
Right.
at least be able to point me in the right direction to find the people who are experts in that particular like niche area of the paranormal. So that's usually what I do. You can't follow everybody. And in this day and age of social media, where, like, just literally every fucking person on the planet is out there plugging something, like, I just can't, you guys. Like, I want you all to succeed at your separate things, and more power to you. But, like, I can't support everybody when everybody is looking, to plug something all the fucking time. Like, I just can't.
Right. I have colleagues.
Everybody's promoting something constantly, and it's just exhausting.
It is right. That's a quick way to get burnt out on your own stuff is to spend all your energy promoting everybody else. Yeah, but no, I have colleagues. I have other people that I have curated some type of friendship with within the community that I trust, that I believe are credible. And if I don't have a person for a certain topic, I can reach out to those people and they probably will. And I can trust
Right.
their judgment that they're going to send me to somebody who also knows what they're talking about. And I think that that is how it really needs to be done. And I try to say that a lot, is that I don't really there is way too many people to support out there, and I wish I could promote everybody and everything. It's just I simply don't even see it half the fucking time on social
Right.
media. I don't even know what you're doing, unless we talk at least weekly. I have no clue.
Pretty
It
much.
sucks. But it is what it is. So, anyway, very, very exciting stuff. Excited for your book to come out. But we don't need to talk about that right now because something else happened today. Something happened today.
What happened today?
Oh, you want me to tell you? You don't know?
I'm just kidding. No,
Um,
yeah. So
it's,
anybody who's interested in Mothman is probably aware that the new season of Unsolved Mysteries, which is available as of today, is going to feature an episode on Mothman, and in that episode, of course, will be yours truly. So that is exciting news indeed.
that has been. Let me tell you. So that's been such a tough secret to hold on to. I can't imagine how you're feeling. Um,
It's
you know,
yeah.
that's very. I'm sure it's very surreal.
It's
Um,
it's really cool. Yeah, no, I've
yeah.
been, I've done TV before, I've done documentaries and stuff, but Unsolved Mysteries like that, it's a different experience. It is. I mean, that's a show that I grew up watching that was very impactful for me. I loved it as a kid and as I grew up. And to be on something like that it's something of a career milestone, frankly. It's like a prestige show to me. So it is really exciting, and I loved working with everybody involved, and I'm excited. I haven't even been able to watch it yet, but I will soon. But I'm excited because the people we were working with were fantastic. This whole production company was great and professional, and the director Gabe, like we met. He did a scouting trip out here before filming started, and we met and we talked about what his vision for the show was going to be, and it aligned with mine perfectly. I've done other stuff on Mothman, but none of it felt as good as this. None of it felt like it was going to be as honest and really just put witnesses front and center like they deserve to be, rather than people's fucking egos all the goddamn time, like this show will. So it is exciting, and I think it's going to be important.
Well, and that's another part where it makes the information easily accessible because everybody knows what unsolved mysteries is, even if they're not really into the paranormal like that. Because most of unsolved mysteries, let's be honest, it's like true crime and stuff,
Oh yeah,
which is vastly more popular than the paranormal.
totally.
Um, so it definitely gets more eyes on the topic, and I'm curious to see if this curates more sighting reports, or if it would finally give us the opportunity to talk to people that work at the fucking airport. That'd be fantastic. So I have a gain in this. Uh,
I mean, I at this point, I don't think those people exist, but yeah, I mean that would be great. Sure.
you said it, not me. Just saying.
Yeah. Right.
But that's I'm hopeful. Fingers crossed. We'll see how it is. But yeah, definitely check that out. Unsolved Mysteries is on Netflix. Check out that episode with Tobias Whalen. You're gonna want to check it out because we are going to hold a very special episode coming up here, where you can ask your questions to our own Tobias Whalen about the production. You can ask it about filming. You can ask it about doing TV. You can ask it about the Mothman, whatever the fuck it is you want to ask Tobias about in regards to the Lake Michigan Mothman Unsolved Mysteries episode, let us know. I'll probably do like a form or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Watch the social medias for it. It'll be out there. But start thinking about your questions now. And obviously, watch the episode first and then ask your question. Don't fucking get on here asking questions without watching the episode first.
Yes, if you ask questions that are obviously answered by the episode, we are allowed to get mad and make fun of you a little bit. Like in a fun way, but still making fun of you.
We're definitely going to make fun of you.
Right.
Tobias says it's going to be fun. Probably fun for us, not fun for you. But
yeah, no, well, you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to be a dick about it, but some gentle ribbing, minimum.
Very, again, the word of the day, diplomatic. We'll diplomatically make fun of you.
Yes.
But no, really, check it out. And, at minimum, let us know what you think. If you have comments about it, you can submit those too. Why not? Everybody likes a compliment.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, if you enjoyed it, please let us know. If you didn't, take that shit to your fucking grave. Never utter a single word about it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That part too, for sure. So, no, very, very exciting stuff. Wow. So, like I said, we'll be hosting that episode here shortly. I'll get a form out for you guys, something where you can submit questions easily, and we'll go from there. How was my weekend? You want to know how my weekend was?
I do. I always do.
Well, I didn't make the kinds of friends that you made. I'm very jealous of your garden variety friends. But no, I went to silent disco, which is something that I like to do. It's last Friday of every month at the Illacab Tavern in Dayton, Ohio. You guys can join me there. The reason why I kind of shout out exactly where it is and when it is because let me tell you, listen, I could have a stalker right now and I would have no clue. And I probably have several of them because every time I go to silent disco, somebody always messages me on social media and they're like, "Oh, I saw you, but I didn't come say hi." Like,
weird.
I wouldn't have ever been able to pick these people out of a lineup. You know what I mean? Like, I have no fucking clue who they were. It is weird. Is it weird? I don't know. It kind of is, right? Like, that's strange.
Yes.
Like,
if they know you well enough to message you on social media, they should have said hi.
All right, just come say hi. But then, like, the awkward moment comes where they're like, "Oh, I'm so and so," and then, I guess the right thing to do is for me to pretend to know who they are.
Oh, it's like that. Do. Yeah, that shit happens to me all the time, and I hate it. Not because, okay, I shouldn't say that. Like, it's flattering, right? Like, to have people who follow you on social media and like, "Oh, yeah, it's me from social media." But I almost never recognize them, like almost never. Right. And then I feel like such a dick. And I'm like, I don't really know you. Like, that's awesome. Like, I love that you exist. And we should be friends. But if I only know you from social media, I'm not going to recognize you.
Right. I mean, it happens, right? You have certain people that you follow on social media, you end up becoming friends with, whatever, but but when you're at an event, when you're at like a convention or something and people do that, it's kind of acceptable, right? They understand that you don't know who they are.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right. So it's not so bad. When I'm in my hometown at fucking silent disco, drunk as fuck, and we just kind of know each other because you added me because I'm local and I don't know, maybe you thought I look cool or something. I don't know. Then it's weird. Then I got to be like, I don't no clue who you are. So like we've never talked and you know who I am, and it's like, that to me, it comes off a little strange.
Oh, I hate that. So like they're not even following you because they're fans of the podcast or something. Right. They just, oh, gross.
Right. I assume, right? Because they never end up being like, "Oh, I love your show." They're just always like, "Oh, hey, we're friends on here." And it's like, well, why'd you add me to begin with? Why'd you add me? And how long have we been friends for? Years? Have we been friends on here for years? You've never said anything to me? Like, until now? Until you saw me out in public and thought now was a good time to say that you recognize me in public? That's weird. So like I said, I probably have like a bajillion stalkers, or probably every single person that goes to silent disco stalking me, and I just don't know it. They all hold like a meeting before I get there, right? And sure. then I show up, they're like, "There she is," and they all like disperse real quick.
The entire event was concocted just to lure you to that location so you could be more easily stalked.
It makes sense why I think all the songs they play are fire. Their songs cater to me.
Yeah. It's all one big Asherz trap.
No, like, you think I'm joking? They played fucking Will Smith's Men in Black. Like, that's fucking, who the fuck requested that? Nobody did.
Not me.
They played it because I was there. I'm just saying, it's a conspiracy. But of course, it's fun, right? I always have fun with, of course, my friends, and then meeting new people. I love drunk bar girls, and God, probably someone's gonna clip that and use it to cancel me at some point. But
Canceled. How
well,
dare you, white
right,
girls?
I know, terrible. Well, just they're so fun, and they make you feel really loved. And I love that about them, right? They're always complimenting me, and they're my best friend just for that night, though. But still, it doesn't matter. I made a new best friend. It feels good.
Sure.
Just saying. So it was a pretty good weekend. But anyway, I do have some news.
Oh, good. I also have a news.
You do have I have one news. I had two, but I didn't want to take away your one news. So
Oh, okay. Good.
So I'll have the fun news. I'll lead in with the fun news this time.
Good. I get the boring old technical sciencey news.
You get the boring news. Yeah. Oh, God.
That's fine. I always have the boring news.
No substance to it whatsoever. Type of news. We'll get there. No, this is just silly. Very silly news. A couple in New Jersey found themselves victim to a flying fish. So over the weekend, a couple in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. Yeah, Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. Jeez. Were sleeping when all of a sudden their Tesla started going off. I thought that was very unusual. Their Tesla didn't usually just randomly go off in the middle of the night, and they went out there to see that their car windshield had been completely shattered. And as they got to looking around at the cause of what was going on, they kind of noticed weird substances on the glass of the window, scales and blood and guts. So they played back their cameras to find that a fish had fallen and went straight through their Tesla window. A fish. Now, I don't think, I might be wrong, but I don't think fish fly, and I don't think fish high jump.
No, well, there is such a thing, I think, as a fish known colloquially as a flying fish, but it doesn't have wings or anything. They just jump out of the water.
Yeah, it's a lie. Yeah.
I think in Piranha 2, those, like, they had flying fish, remember? But, they just jumped out of the water and killed people.
Yeah. Not the same thing.
Yeah, I would assume that a bird dropped it, probably.
Yeah, that is probably the likely assumption here. Falling fish has definitely been a subject of, Fortean phenomena since there was Fortean phenomena. It is an OG, but there likely isn't anything anomalous about this. It's not like it was raining hordes of fish or anything.
That would be different.
That would be different. It was a lone fish, and it probably was dropped by some type of eagle carrying it that lost balance. Fish are slippery,
They are. And it was probably wriggling around because it didn't want to get eaten by some fucking bird of prey, probably.
The thing that they kind of, it's not really, because there's like a video of that. Like, I watched the news broadcast of it, and they're like getting interviewed on the news about it, which I think is great.
What the fuck? This was on the news?
Yeah, it was on the news.
Jesus, get it to, like, was this in like on the news where you live, or just on the internet?
It was, I saw it on the internet. So it was local news that they were on. But I mean, that's fun news. I'd rather have that kind of news than the kind of shit we get locally. But so they didn't really specify, because they said that they were suspicious of what had happened after seeing the fucking scales in their Tesla window. But they didn't mention whether or not they actually found the fish. That it fucking fell through the windshield and it just obliterated it.
So there was no body, or they didn't mention whether there was a body? They
didn't mention whether there was or wasn't, but I would think
sloppy reporting.
Right. They had the video, but they weren't oh, here's a picture of the fish, or they found the fish body beside the car. And that's how they found out. They said that they found out because they watched the video and saw the fish go through the windshield. And that's it. So it's well, what the fuck happened to the fish?
Right? There is a mystery here now, because we need to know what happened to that fucking fish body. I like to believe that somebody just whipped a fish through their fucking window because they were like, fuck Tesla.
And then took it with them?
Yeah. And
The
then they're like,
idea
oh,
of
but at the same time, I really wanted that fish. Shit. And then they just like go and get it.
it. Right? Groceries are expensive.
Right.
Throw away a fish in this economy. Um, I like to think that the fish escaped death twice and found the courage to pull itself back to the water.
Okay.
It's a story of determination like we've never seen.
Yeah.
And that fish is now still alive to this day.
Shows grit. That
It
fish
shows
has grit.
I'll tell you a short story. I had an incident where when my sister lived with us, she had two goldfish and like a big tank, like a big, it wasn't 10 gallons, but it was like 5 gallon tank. It was big. And anyway, one day my cats knocked it over. Well, one cat knocked it over. And I woke up and didn't like, I know I heard something. I know something woke me up, but I just thought it was my toddler at the time. So I go and get her out of her room and she was awake. But when I walked out of her room, I saw there was a flood of water everywhere. And there's both of my cats back in the corner. One of them is standing there because he's a very good boy and he would never. But the other one definitely had a fish. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I had to grab that fish. And then I'm like, well, where's the other fish? It's still on the counter where he hadn't gotten that one yet.
Oh boy.
So I had to scoop them both up, and they were both alive. So the one that he had, it didn't make it very long, but that fucker lived for like a whole 2 days afterwards. It was very sad. But then the other one went on to live such a long life, and it got so big that eventually we had to give it to a private collector because we couldn't maintain it anymore. Motherfucker survived
Wow.
a cat attack and went on to have a great. He's probably still alive now.
Holy shit. That goldfish will outlive us all.
Yep. So he comes from this family of fish is what I think. So
Okay.
anyway, that's my news.
Solid news. All right, well, let's move over to the world of ufology, where the Mutual UFO Network have revealed recently evidence of recovered UFO materials at their annual symposium in Irving, Texas. So this just took place. Let's see, that would have been earlier this month. It was earlier in July. Yeah. So news first broke of the upcoming presentation, however, in a press release provided by MUFON last June, in which it was teased as the most important UAP related presentation MUFON has ever made. And I just want to point out that for whatever reason, they used UAP here, and that's the current government nomenclature for UFO. So don't get confused. If you hear UAP, it just means UFO. MUFON uses those initialisms interchangeably for whatever reason instead of just picking one. I would go with UFO if it was me, but whatever. Anyway, so MUFON Media Relations Director Ron James, in a statement, said, "The evidence that supports this story and others that we will share at the symposium could make this the biggest UFO-related news event of the year. We have physical materials and more evidence of non-human technology." So this is exciting, right? Like you're thinking, oh shit, they got a crashed saucer, alien bodies. Well, hold on. So MUFON researcher Robert Bob Spearing presented the evidence in front of a live audience at the event. Now, according to Spearing, MUFON was contacted last year by a Russian man named Arkady, who wished to report the recovery of mysterious materials that he believed came from a crashed UFO. Arkady claimed that he had been in contact with an unknown entity named Tamiku after performing CE5 experiments with a group of people. Now, if you're not familiar, I think we've covered this on the podcast, but I'll give you a brief overview just in case. CE5 refers to a process to contact UFOs and their occupants, which was invented by Dr. Stephen Greer. So the short version of that is that CE5 refers to something called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which, according to Greer, is direct communication between aliens and humans involving bilateral contact experiences through conscious, voluntary, and proactive human-initiated cooperative communication with extraterrestrial intelligence, which is just fucking dork for telepathic communication with aliens. All right? So anyway, as a result of this contact, Arkady said he began to experience apports of strange objects in his home. So apports are when shit just mysteriously shows up in your house. It's usually related to poltergeist phenomena. So anyway, he first noticed a black fragment of some unknown material near his laptop one day, but thought nothing of it and threw it away. He just thought it was garbage. However, the next day, he noticed another such fragment. And at that point, he realized the fragments had been materialized special for him. And according to Tomiku, they were pieces of UFO wreckage. Now, in the coming days, he would find several more pieces of the mysterious the mysterious substance, rather, which is black with a gold tinge and appears to be metallic, although it is very lightweight. And so during this presentation, which you can watch, I have it linked in an article on our website, they show a bunch of images and stuff of the supposed like UFO material. And I mean, it just looks like little pieces of fucking garbage. They're all really, really small. Like the only one that actually is next to something that would tell you exactly what size it is a little less than like 1 centimeter. So like just literally tiny pieces of shit that could be from anything. So take that for whatever, take that for what it's worth. But anyway, so Arkady said that he sent pieces of this material to be analyzed by 2 labs in Russia, who both used X-ray fluorescence to identify its composition. So X-ray fluorescence is a portable method to be able to identify certain elements. It's not the most accurate way to do it, but it is portable, and it also will preserve whatever it is that you are testing, so it won't destroy the material being tested, which, is important if you've got pieces of a UFO or something. So after a week, the lab contacted Arkady to say the material is composed of an organometallic, but not graphene substance that consists of organic atoms with admixture atoms, metals, and semi-metals. So the lab claimed to have only been able to identify 10% of the material's components, among them things like calcium, titanium, iron, and copper. And also bromine. So following those tests, some of the material was sent to the MUFON lab in Missouri, where similar tests were conducted. So this is where it ggets interesting, because up until now, we've got one dude who submitted this report to MUFON and had some materials that, again, and I'm not trying to be a dick about this, but if you look at them, they just look like little pieces of random garbage, these just little black pieces of shit, basically, that could be literally anything. They could be little pieces of like plastic or some other substance, who knows. So anyway, this is where things get interesting, because finally they're being tested by MUFON at their lab in Missouri. So according to Lynn Mann, who's the chief analyst at MUFON Laboratory, who also conducted these tests, and also again with an X-ray fluorescence gun, said that they were unable to detect any known elements. So that surprised them, because they expected to at least detect the elements claimed to have been found by the labs in Russia, right? But they didn't even find that. So this is unusual, Mann explained, because the X-ray fluorescence gun had been standardized by reading a substance known to be aluminum alloy prior to examination of the mystery substance. So basically they set set up the fluorescence gun by reading this aluminum thing. So they know that it's working because they use it on the aluminum alloy, and it's like, oh, this is aluminum alloy, right? Okay, great, that's working. So then they use it on the substance, and it's just like, meh, don't know, nothing, right? So she said the mystery substance came up with a no match against the standard, but it also has a chemistry reading. So if there is no match to the standard, it will give out a set of elements that it finds if the sample is metal. It found none. That either means it is not metal or a metal alloy, or it isn't a metal we recognize on the periodic table. So furthermore, a spectrograph reading returned results that the lab was unable to identify, which, again, man noted as being unusual. So ultimately, she concluded, and this is a direct quote, by appearance only, it appears to be some type of lightweight insulation suited to conductive insulating of something needing heat protection and needing to conserve on weight to operate. We should circle back to that after we get to the other crazy shit surrounding this supposed UFO material. Okay, so that's not the only weird fucking thing that's happened, right? So, in another strange turn, the sample then went missing when the lab tried to ship it to Spearing. So, MUFON Laboratory is like, all right, we're going to send this to Bob Spearing. They package it up, they ship it to him. The post office said that it arrived and it was in his locked P.O. box at his local post office. But when he goes to pick it up, it's gone. It has disappeared. He said that he talked to the postal employee working and they said, hey, I put it in there myself. But it wasn't in there, he said. So luckily, another sample had been mailed from Russia, which was then opened live on stage at the symposium. And again, this is all, you can go watch this. And so, yeah, apparently they have another one. And that one, he said, is going to be sent on to 2 more laboratories where it will be examined with an electron microscope. So stay tuned for that. So, okay, remember how I said I wanted to circle back to the conclusions of Lynn Mann here? So we should go ahead and do that now. And then I know I've been talking for a while, so I want to get your read on this, Asherz. But okay, so she said, and I'm going to repeat this here, that the results of the test that they ran with the X-ray fluorescence gun meant it either is not metal or a metal alloy, or it isn't a metal we recognize on the periodic table. So if this was just pieces of fucking garbage, like, I don't know, little pieces of random shit that this guy had around his house that he was sending to them, that would make sense. This result would make sense. You know, it's supposed to be this like really hard, lightweight substance. Okay, so yeah, maybe it's not metal. Maybe it's just some fucking bullshit. And yet, the conclusion was still, it appears to be some type of lightweight insulation suited to conductive insulating of something needing heat protection and needing to conserve on weight to operate, which seems like kind of a leap to me, if I can be completely honest. So, anyway, your thoughts?
Oh, jeez. So one question that I have, which MUFON symposium was this presented at?
The one in Irving, Texas. So it was earlier this month, July something, like 9th, I think.
Okay. My favorite part is when it was stolen out of the mailbox. I like that a lot. That's the
best. Well, because it's so conspiratorial, right? Like yeah. Now, of course, you've got all, and it's, oh God, if you watch these things, like, and this is a lot of events in this space. It's going to be a lot of people old enough to be your parents or grandparents.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to be just totally fucking just at a loss as to how this could possibly happen. Like, oh my God, we're living in an exciting John Clancy novel. People stealing things out of P.O. boxes. Yeah, they're old enough to know who John Clancy is. And so like, it's like a whole thing, where they kind of live in this conspiracy like fantasy or whatever. And it's just fucking surreal. It's so surreal because they do make a big deal out of it. They're like, oh, how could this go missing from like our P.O. box, from a locked P.O. box? The postal worker said that they put it in there. What could have possibly happened? Well, I don't know. What do we have for proof that any of this happened in the first fucking place? Like, how do we know it was ever in there? How do we know it was sent? How do we know it exists? I mean, what do you want me to say here?
I think that me 5 years ago would have been way excited about this story.
Yes.
I would have been like, oh my God, that sounds promising and fantastic. And oh my God, it's going to be this is the next big thing. Right. But I think with the climate of how things have been in the last couple of years in the way of ufology, that, I'm not going to outright say that MUFON is making this up. because I don't want to get sued. But
Right.
it just seems extremely suspicious to me that MUFON becomes so irrelevant these days, right? And now all of a sudden they have this really cool piece of UFO debris with a fantastical story behind it, that happens to hit all the markers for the things that people really seem to enjoy when it comes to ufology, right? You have a CE5 mentioned, which is becoming increasingly popular.
Oh
You've
yeah, it's so hot right now.
Right. I mean, you've got direct contact with aliens, which is always popular, no matter what time period you're in. Um, you've got an actual physical artifact, which is becoming really cool. What with that guy and his alien mummies, and even the Pentagon at one point claiming that they had debris of some sort, and then just never talking about it ever again. You've got Gary Nolan is now kind of finally getting some recognition, and that guy's got a lot of really cool shit going on. So you should definitely pay attention to that and what's happening. But it just seems very suspicious to me that they would come out with this. But in that same vein, right? We just talked about Bigfoot and how people that are looking for Bigfoot are probably going to find Bigfoot. So I'm not gonna be an asshole
Right.
and say that I'm not buying any of this. I'm interested to see what happens going forward. But I'm not as excited about this as some people might be.
Yeah. So much of it is let's put the diplomatic cap back on, because I have nothing against any of these people. Nothing.
Yes, I don't know any of them. Have never heard of any of these people. They're
No.
probably great.
I don't know them. My just like my basic observation is that they seem to be earnest in what they are doing, and so I'm definitely going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I do believe that they have an authentic interest in this subject, but doesn't it just seem ridiculous that this if this entity is going to show up to this guy and give him UFO fragments, that it would be in the form of something that isn't little pieces of garbage. And I'm not just saying that. Keep in mind, the reason I keep referring to this as little pieces of garbage is that because when the guy first fucking found them in his goddamn house, he thought it was garbage and just threw it away because they're just little pieces
Right.
of shit, basically.
Yeah.
It's just they look like little pieces of garbage. Like if you found it in your house, you'd be like, oh man, what did the dog chew up? And
Right.
you
What's
just
that go
throw it
to?
away. Yeah.
You know,
Oh, totally.
you can look around your house right now and find exactly these artifacts later
Yeah.
somewhere.
I probably have a bunch of UFO fucking material in here.
No, I agree with that. The reason why I asked where it was held is just because, like I went to the MUFON symposium last year in Cincinnati, which is supposed to be like the MUFON symposium. Like if you're going to go to one, that should be the one, right? That's where it's MUFON's from, right? It's Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh.
And fucking nobody was there. Well, there really wasn't a lot of people there. I mean, I have been to not many events that were much worse as far as attendance goes. It's just very obvious, and we kind of know a little bit of the inside baseball there as to why why people have kind of distanced themselves from that. So it just seems, I don't know, it just seems really convenient for them to have something like this.
Sure.
So
Well,
I don't know.
yeah. No, I think you make a good point. And that, nobody should just believe something without sufficient evidence. I think that's a good reminder just in general. When it comes to MUFON, I think the other thing we're seeing too, and this is something that we are seeing across every aspect of the paranormal, is an aging population.
Yes.
It is increasingly difficult to get young people to engage meaningfully with these subjects.
Yeah.
It is a lot of older people. Like you go to events, and the average age is probably 50 plus.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
that might be I might be being a little bit generous.
Generous.
There, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest. I know some people will disagree with it, especially I know our age demographic that listens to the show, and it's, I mean, generally around there. But let's be real. Statistically speaking, the kids are smarter. The kids are getting smarter. they're not falling for stuff anymore. But you
Yeah.
got to remember, they're brought up in a generation where like AI images are a thing, right? So it's hard to believe just anything anymore. Whereas like back in your grandparents, UFO days, they'd fucking, pass around one same UFO photo for 20 years and people would be like, look how amazing that is. It doesn't work that way.
True. I have whole books like that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so, but the kids are getting smarter, so it is hard to grip their attention. They want evidence. And rightfully so. That's okay. I'm not saying that I think MUFON is making this up for attention. I'm not saying that they're making it up to generate interest. I'm not saying they're making it up at all. But what I am saying is that it does all seem very suspicious to me.
Right.
Not that I think that they're in on it or anything, because this could be a genuine witness or what they believe is a genuine witness that happened to pick up the remnants of something their dog chewed in their house and send it over to them. Like you said, who knows? What is MUFON's presence like in Russia? Do you know? 'Cause I
Non-existent.
don't. Right. I mean, do they really have a big presence there? Do they really, I mean, is it easy for people to get a hold of MUFON from Russia? I don't know what Russia's like. I've never been.
Well, anybody with the internet can. Well, with this specifically, with the situation that's still happening over there, the war in Ukraine,
Right.
you can't mail things from Russia here. So it had to be mailed to Turkey first and then
Gotcha.
sent here from there. But it apparently still got here. So I don't think that there are any official MUFON branches there.
Hmm.
I think that the person found them online and contacted them and then decided to send it over. From the
Oh,
sounds of it, if
okay.
they're doing CE5, they're obviously very interested in UFOs. So they probably knew who MUFON was. And so I'm sure that they probably already knew ahead of time who to reach out to if
Gotcha.
and when something like this happened. So it's difficult to say because without somebody there, I mean, again, I don't want to be that guy, but the first thing you got to do is be like, okay, is there any sign that this person has any mental health issues? Because,
Absolutely.
like, are they schizophrenic or something? And this is just a narrative that's playing out in their head, and they don't realize that they're sending you bits of fucking garbage from their house because they really do think it's material from a crashed saucer. Like, have we ruled that out? It didn't sound like anybody fucking ruled it out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, right. I mean, that is another, well, and we don't know. Let's be honest. We're only working with what MUFON's presented to the
yeah,
public. So we
sure.
have
But
no idea.
if they did that, they should have said that they did that already.
I agree. That would be um, open and honest reporting. Right? That's what it's about. But maybe for time constraints, just like you and I were kind of talking about, it can be very hard to discuss some of these things at length, really get into it. Maybe that's why. Who knows?
Sure.
I'm
No way they could
skeptical.
fit all that in at their own symposium.
No, of course not, because they might it might just blow the narrative a little bit. But
Well, they don't
anyway,
have any control over what they present at their own symposium. They
no,
have to.
the
Oh, wait.
government does.
Sure.
You know,
Government.
right? The government. They don't want to speak too much because then all of their PO boxes will get raided and they'll stop getting those nice donation checks. Anyway,
True.
um, I said I don't want to get sued. Okay. Um, I would be interested to see what comes out of this. My thought process is going to be, what's probably going to come out of it? You know what usually comes out of it?
Nothing. We're never going to hear about this again.
Fucking nothing. Yep, just gonna disappear. Except for fucking dude that won't stop it with his fucking alien mummies that aren't alien mummies.
Oh,
But
so sick of that. So sick of it.
you know what? I'll give him credit. At least he persists.
It's easier to do down there. Like,
Yeah, that's
way,
true.
like you think it's bad here.
They just
Go to
believe it.
fucking
Yeah.
Mexico, and the shit that they are willing to entertain in their
Yeah.
media is just mind-boggling. Like, obviously, this shit is not fucking real.
Yeah.
Like,
That guy's gonna
just
fucking ride this one to his grave.
my god, fucking Jaime Maussan.
Yes.
So sick of seeing that fucking guy.
But yeah, no, well, we probably won't hear. I mean, but it sounds like to me, like, like say I'm an alien, but like I'm a human and there's another race and they're below us.
Sure.
And I just went like, I don't know. I just handed them like a soda can and was like, "Hey, this is debris from our world." You know what I mean? And then like,
Right. Just like
and
put out
then
your cigarette and throw the butt at him.
yeah,
Enjoy
this
your
is
fucking
great.
UFO wreckage, dipshit.
And on their world, they're like trying super hard to fucking pick it apart, and meanwhile, it's just literally garbage. Like,
Right. It's absolutely just like fucking bottle caps and cigarette butts and shit.
right? They're trying, scratching their heads. We don't know what this is.
Uh,
So let's just say it is genuine. Okay, let's just say it's 1,000%. An alien came and gave this to this man, and here we are. I think it's a fucking joke.
yeah, fair. I mean, yeah, if it did come from some entity that this dude in Russia had communicated with, it's got to be fucking with him. Has to be.
It's loving this. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, wow, look at these fuckers, so dumb. This is why we don't contact you.
Right.
So anyway, no, it's neat. Let's keep an eye on it. Let's see if anything ever does happen, and
Sure.
maybe it will, but probably not. Don't expect more from this.
No, not at all. Like this is the alien equivalent of pretending to throw a ball to confuse your dog.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah.
That's at minimum, right? At
Right.
best. So we'll see. So are they supposed to? So is it gone now? Is that what he's saying? There's no
But he
material
got
of it?
like the stuff they were testing disappeared, but got new stuff. They got a new sample
Okay,
sent over from Russia, so they can move forward with that until it's also stolen or
What
something.
else does the guy have? I mean, my God, he's just like, oh, you need a new one, and then he just fucking goes to his
Well, he
basement, and
kept
looks around the
finding
floor.
them. Yeah, he keeps finding them.
Whoa.
They just keep like apporting into his house, just showing up.
It's like literally. So his house is their ashtray.
I think that's it. Yeah, they're just like, oh fuck, whose turn is it to take out the garbage? And then they just throw it into his house.
It probably, you know what? That's probably, you know how we have trash compactors. Like it's
Yeah.
probably that. Like that's what I think of, like futuristic trash compactors. It compacts it down to that little teeny tiny little thing that we now have that we're testing and worried about.
Yeah, maybe. Sure, I'll buy that.
I don't know. I'm just speculating. Why not make it fun?
Yeah.
I said don't expect anything to come from this. I'm going to change that statement. Don't get your hopes up for anything to come out of this, but do expect it. We should have high
Sure.
standards on this stuff.
No reason to be cynical.
Well, I suppose.
Right. I mean, there's lots of reasons to be cynical, but we shouldn't succumb to them, I guess.
Shouldn't. You're right. We're better than them. Anyway, want to talk about some phantom black dogs
Do I?
as opposed to phantom brown dogs or phantom white dogs or even tan sometimes. Let's
Yes.
kind of get into it a little bit, but first I have a disclaimer.
Okay.
Phantom black dogs do not in any way at all whatsoever translate to regular everyday domesticated dogs or even regular everyday wolves or even let's just black coyotes. These are not animals. There is no reason at all for you as a person or for us as a human species to fear black animals
No.
and treat
Leave
them
them
back.
alone.
So you have a black dog, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned that. Emily and I, when we were looking for our second cat, we determined that we were going to adopt a black cat on
Yeah.
purpose because they are by far the most mistreated adoptable animals. People will try to adopt them just to abuse them and do horrible shit to them, which breaks my heart because our little black cat Umbra she is just the sweetest, most loving kitty that I have ever met in my life,
Yeah.
So yeah, if you think that there is any reason at all to treat an animal differently because it is black, you fucking suck. You piece of shit. Never talk to me or anyone.
Or
Like, what the
whatever.
fuck?
Yeah,
Yes.
just go lay in a field and just stay there
Yeah, you think about what you've done.
forever until death. Yes, no, I agree. Black animal. There's nothing wrong with black animals. I just shouldn't have to say that in 2024, but here we are. So don't take this episode and run with it and go, well, Asherz said that black dogs are demons, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you that right now. Black dogs are fantastic. And your next animal you get should be a black animal, and also it should be elderly if you can,
Sure.
because they deserve homes too. But anyway, hopping off my soapbox now. Tobias, do you have any history with phantom black dogs?
I don't have any. I would have expected to have received a report by now, because I've received reports on just about every other phenomenon you could name, right? But I've never received a black dog report. So my only exposure to black dogs is through folklore, like reading about folklore from the UK, which is where you get, I think, most of the black dog reports and stories and things. And it's how it's sort of tied into like fairy literature and stuff like that. But in terms of like real life, firsthand kind of testimony stuff, I got nothing.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. There's a reason for that. Primarily, phantom black dogs are more lore based in the British Isles. It's more of a European thing. It's not really seen a lot here in the U.S. We have Dog Man, right? That's because that's how we do things. It can't just be a normal spooky spectral dog. It has to be a bipedal, muscle-bound beast.
It's got to be bigger. Make it bigger.
Yeah, exactly. But this is. Black dogs in folklore culturally across the world have been some type of staple in some capacity. Sometimes they're very bad, sometimes they're very good. We tend to see them over here in Western culture more as very bad because our modern day beliefs are based off of, Puritans and stuff. So
sure, everything was bad.
Right, everything's bad. Everything that could be good is very bad. I just wanted to kind of go over. I've never done this, and we didn't do it with Bigfoot, right? We talked about how Bigfoot has a million names, and how you guys don't have a Bigfoot name in Wisconsin, which is still fucking weird, but whatever. But I did pull a list of names just because they're hilarious. So I'm gonna read them off. You ready for this?
Yeah, do it.
It's not all of them, but it's a lot of them. So, of course, Phantom Black Dog is the title of this episode. The Barghest, I think, is what it is. Barghest.
Yeah, I have always heard like Barghest or something.
Barghest, yeah.
Unless it has like some weird
Accent.
Gaelic pronunciation or something,
Yeah.
which a lot of fucking words do. So
They do.
I'm over trying to pronounce that shit correctly. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, if I get something wrong, you're just gonna have to, I don't know, cry about it or something. You go lay in the field with the animal hater person.
Yeah, you get in that field.
Get out of
Shush
here.
up.
Think about it. The Black Shuck, which is probably the most popular one in Western culture, not because it's happened here, and we'll talk about it. The Galley Trot. Okay, sexy. I like this one. Girt Dog. Girt Dog. I don't know what it means, but it's Girt Dog. Harry Jack. Like, okay, all right. Churchyard Beast. I like that one a lot too.
That's good.
Hellhound, which is again another more popularized term here.
That's a fan favorite. Hellhound.
Yeah, Hellhound is a thing. Yellhound. So if you don't want to say the word hell, you can say yell instead.
I feel like that's how moms used to say Pokemon. It's just, it's just somebody who doesn't have any fucking idea what's going on. They're just like, is that one of those yellhounds?
Yellhound.
Oh, those are spooky. They give me the shivers. Okay, Mom, just leave us alone. We're doing our hellhounds, so go do something else.
I like how your true Wisconsinite came out there.
Right. That's what every mom here sounds like.
I believe that.
You guys playing with your Pokemans?
With your Pokemans, yeah. Yellhound, the boomer version of Hellhound.
Sure.
I like this one. Hooter.
Hooter?
I don't know
Who
why.
doesn't love a hooter?
Well, everybody loves a hooter. Old Scarp.
Okay.
Old
that sounds
Shock.
like a fish.
Old Scarp.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it does. It does sound. I don't know what Scarp means. But it's Old Scarp, Old Shock. Of course, these are like classic dog names, right? They have old in them.
Right.
That makes sense. Padfoot.
That's a good one.
Scarf.
That sounds like an 80s cartoon character.
Oh, you think that sounds like an 80s cartoon
Scarf?
character?
Yeah, wasn't he in Thundercats? No, that was Snarf.
Snarf, yeah.
but it's
Close enough.
close.
It's the knockoff version. It's the generic.
It is. It's
Thunder-
like the fucking dollar store Snarf from Thundercats.
Oh wait,
You're like,
it's Thunder Dogs. That's why.
oh, okay. Yeah. So if you're like, okay, you go to your mom, you're like, hey, mom, can we get some Thundercats toys? And she's like, we have Thundercats toys at home.
Yeah.
And then the Thundercats toys at home is Scarf instead of Snarf.
Yep. And
The
it's
worst.
And it's a dog. Shucky Dog. So that's very creative. I like this one. Shug Monster.
Shug Monster is my rap name.
Right.
That's my hip hop name for sure. Shug Monster.
That's what I thought. I was like, is this fucking is Suge Knight's little brother or something? Shug Monster. It's like his apprentice.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Skeff.
Okay, that sounds dirty. I don't think you're allowed to say skeff.
Skeff. Nate's got to edit it out. He's got to put the bleep for this.
Yeah, it's like a sex thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's dirty. Skriker.
Again, like that's like okay, that's a European knockoff of Riker or something from Star Trek. Like seriously, they're just trying to skirt the copyright. Just get close enough.
They just fucking strung some things together and made a word, Skriker.
Right.
And then Striker, of course, is like the real version. Striker and Skriker. And then, of course, the last one is very simple. Trash.
Trash?
Trash.
That's really judgmental.
Super rude. Just trash.
Right.
And, I'd kind of gone on this, like, in this rabbit hole where I was kind of looking up, like, where the origins of some of these names come from because I don't know. Like, how the fuck do you get Hooter? Like, where does that? And some of them do have,
I'm
like,
just always thinking of it.
It had memories. I don't know. Hooter.
Right.
But some of them make sense, right? It's like old world speak, and it actually meant this, but now it means this. I could not figure out where the fuck trash plays a part in any of this.
I don't know. The only trash. I think that was Linnea Quigley's character in Return of the Living Dead.
Okay,
otherwise, that's what I think of when people say like trash is a name. That's the first thing that occurs to me.
Trash. And so like I said, I couldn't find the origins of where that one came from. But that's my list of names. I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through because, like I said, some of them were pretty fun. We probably should have done that with Bigfoot. Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Because it's got some fun ones too. But the interesting part about phantom black dogs, I did mention these are not animals. This is not a cryptid. This is definitely something that is more along the lines of some type of supernatural something or the other. Right. But what's really fascinating about the black dog phenomena is that they're not necessarily always dogs. And so what I mean by that is that what they look like, their general shape tends to be some type of creature on all fours. Sometimes they don't even have a head. Mm-hmm. They do tend to have eyes most of the time, and the eyes tend to have some type of spectral glow to them. So, red, yellows, greens, blues, any color you could think of, it's had some type of, and this isn't, deer in the headlights eye shine. This is from within. Even when they don't have heads, even though the heads are missing, there will still tend to be some type of eye shape to them. Some of them only have one eye, which is, I don't know if it's a cyclops. I don't know if it got hot sauce in its other eye and it's just keeping it closed for now. I don't know what's happening with the other eye, but sometimes they will morph shape. So they might transform from more of like a shadow person human form into more of a bipedal dog type form, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
And then they vary in size, of course. They can be anywhere from as small as a calf all the way up to people the size of a table. I thought our measurements were weird over here, but apparently across the pond, you know how like we use football field for everything, like to compare it, I guess they use tables. I don't know.
Right. How many hands tall was it? That's what I need to know.
Right. Exactly.
How fast can it run a furlong?
Do you know
how many hogsheads?
They didn't disclose that. It's a table. Okay, we talking coffee table? We talking side table? Or are you talking full on fucking Knights of the Round Table? Like what kind of table? We'll never
True.
know.
All good questions.
So yeah, they are very um they're very ever changing in their appearance depending on who's having the experience and how and why. Their color can also change. We're going to talk about one specific example here, but there are so many of them where they will go from being a white dog to a black dog. Their coats tend to change, but the more popular version of their coats tend to be a long, shaggy coat. So think of like a long-haired black German Shepherd.
Sure.
Like that is probably the most consistent description of it repeatedly. But like we find with a lot of these things, those descriptions can change. Um, so that is what I have. Right. The most important part. They tend to be accompanied by chains of some sort. Either, excuse me, either the sound of chains around them. Some of them are wearing they're wearing like a collar of chains that they drag behind them. Maybe the chains are on their legs, but that seems to be a pretty consistent experience. Like I said, mostly across the board. A lot of people tend to see it this way. Um, am I missing anything about the black dog so far? I don't think so. I've been talking for a while.
No. Well, that's good. No, I don't think so in terms of like appearance. There's a lot of connotations that come with black dog sightings as being premonitions or heralds of doom or disaster or death or something. But yeah, no, I think in terms of like appearance, you pretty much covered it. It is interesting. I said that I had never received any direct reports. And I haven't, not anybody saying a black dog, but I did have a sighting report where somebody reported a shape-shifting like shadow person that
Mhm.
seemed to turn into like a large black cat. And it was devoid of features, so they would have really been, it would have appeared like the silhouette of a cat, I guess. But that's close enough to a dog in terms of what we're talking about to make me
Oh yeah.
now question if maybe that could be related somehow.
Yeah, definitely. I know you had kind of before we recorded mentioned that, and I didn't want to spoil anything, but yeah, I mean, it fits the bill, even though it's not specifically dog shaped.
Right.
It does tend to be some type of just not bipedal, but four-legged creature.
Yes.
And that,
Quadrupedal.
thank you. Yes, my God, I'm over here bullshitting my way through this episode. Like, God, what the fuck is that word?
You're doing great.
Thank you. Did anybody notice? Did you guys notice? I hope not. That would be really embarrassing. Anyway, um, so let's talk about, kind of where the interest lies here. A lot of people talk about the probably again one of the most famous encounters with one of these, at least for Western culture, with one of these entities. It happens to be the encounter of the Black Shuck in August of 1577. So again, notice the dates. That's kind of like that's a long time ago.
That's so fucking long ago.
It's super long ago. It's almost crazy that the story has even prevailed, like stood the test of time because it's so long ago. However, this does happen to be, I think, probably one of the only experiences with a phantom black dog where there is physical evidence that still exists to this day. So
Okay.
let's get into it. Gentlemen, this was found in a book written by a gentleman of the name of Abraham Fleming. Abraham reported that one sunshiny day, actually, I'm sorry, it wasn't a sunshiny, it was actually a dark and stormy day, on a Sunday in August of, again, 1577, people were gathered there in the church in the city Bungay, Bungh, I think, AY, Bungay, in Suffolk. I'm trying
Okay.
here. Anyway, so everybody's at church. They're all having a great time. It's storming outside. And in the midst of the storm, walks in a creature, a really strange creature. Now, the interesting aspect of this story is that this beast walks in, and that's how he describes it. But he says that it was accompanied by fire. So it seems to me that there was no physical description, so it's not black or white or anything. This creature seemed to be made of fire and was like canine shaped, is what I'm kind of gathering from it. Now, I could be wrong about that. It could be mistranslation and the description got lost in translation, but he does not describe a black creature. As a matter of fact, the evidence supports this. It came into the Bungay church and started attacking the shit out of people. It actually killed 2 people. And it had turned to attack a third person, but for whatever reason changes its mind and decides, I don't need to be here right now. I need to go somewhere else. So it does. It actually traveled 7 miles away to the town of Blytheburg and went to a church there where they were also having their congregation and killed 3 more people and burnt a 4th one. So the person didn't die, but I believe their hand was burnt, due to trying to subdue the creature. Eventually, it leapt through the door of the church, leaving black scorch marks that you can actually go visit to this day.
Interesting. No way that anything other than a fire dog could have caused that damage either. That much we know.
Definitely not possible to be anything else.
No.
It couldn't have been. And all those people that died, they didn't die of anything else. That's not possible. We did 1577's forensics on them and found that they were killed by the hands of this fire dog.
It is wild to me that stories from that long ago survive into the modern day. I mean, I think it's a real testament sort of to humanity and our will to preserve history, because I mean, you're right. Like, that's so fucking long ago, like
I didn't even know people could talk back then. I'm just kidding.
Right. Let alone write things down. I mean, no, but like it is just really fascinating to me because you have these stories and there are reverberations from this tale that still exist today, because while this might be an iconic example of black dogs, it's certainly not the only story surrounding black dogs. And there are, more recent legends, even in America, of black dogs in areas reputedly haunted by them, So yeah, it's just fascinating that stuff like that can manage to stick around.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, this seems to be the most well-known one, just simply for the scorch marks that you can see. You can Google it. You can go look at a picture of it and decide if it came from a fire dog or not. I guess that part really bothers me because I don't understand. I don't know if he was saying that the creature itself was made of fire, or if the creature itself was invisible and it's like it had like a fire force field around it. That sounds way cooler.
Does sound cooler.
You know what I mean? And like the general shape seemed to be maybe of a dog and it was biting people. So, I mean, who does that? Nobody else. No other animal ever can bite except for dogs.
Just dogs. Just dogs.
So there's a ton of these stories. And these, I mean, my God, most of them tend to just be kind of more urban legendy, right? A lot of them aren't, like we have here. And we have some of them here. Abandoned bridges or old bridges, scary rural roadways.
Crossroads are a big one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Cemeteries, churches, where this thing tends to hang out a lot. But we do have some of the stories here, and I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit because I know our demographic is primarily American.
Sure.
So I kind of wanted to focus more on what we might find here and what that looks like. So there's a little creature that lives in Maryland. Okay. It's called the Snarly Yow. You ever heard of this?
Yeah, Snarly Yow.
That's our Phantom Black Dog. That's ours.
Yeah.
The Snarly Owl is very much the same thing. It's that the Snarly Owl doesn't have a head most of the time. Just depends on who you ask and what the sighting entails, but that's kind of the more popular. It has no head. It can change colors from white to black, which means that it also kind of shares a lot of similarities to the West Virginian white thing. I don't know if you've heard of that one in your research, Tobias, but look it
The
up.
white. I know it more as sheep squatch, but I think it's the same thing.
It can be. The white thing in West Virginia shapeshifts.
Oh, so is one of its forms sheep squatch?
It is, yeah. And then there was a big. I found out about it researching TNT area events. There was a
Okay.
sighting of a giant white big cat in the TNT area, and people tend to think that it might be the white thing.
Oh, because there was a sheep squatch sighting over by the TNT area
There
too.
was, there
Yeah.
was, yep. And so people kind of put two and two together and thought, oh, it's the white thing, and it shapeshifts.
Oh, well, then there's no real proof of that.
But there's no real proof that it's not.
Well, yeah, but then by that fucking logic, there's no real proof that it isn't Spider-Man.
Okay, and you're right. I agree with you. Clearly, it's
Yeah.
Spider-Man. You know,
It's a diabolical plot by that villainous Spider-Man who has been plaguing the city with his presence for years. I just became J. Jonah Jameson. I don't know what happened there.
but is it white? That's the if he's not white Spider. I mean, I know he's a white guy,
That's
but
true.
you know, he's got to have a white Spider-Man suit to be the white thing.
Yeah, I don't think he ever did. Yeah, all right, never mind. You got
And
off
then-
lucky this time, web slinger.
And then Alabama has their Alabama white thing, which that's their Bigfoot.
Okay.
Look at all these. Remember that string in your bulletin board from a couple weeks back? Pull that back out again. I'm just kidding.
Sure.
We don't need it this time.
No, there's all kinds of white Bigfoot. Big Muddy Monster was a white Bigfoot.
Yep. Big white
Yeah.
Bigfoot, but he was muddy, so
Yeah, that's true.
he might have been gray. We don't know. Anyway, so the snarly owl holds similarities to other cryptids. That's all I'm saying. In other states, West Virginia is not far from Maryland, so who knows? But yeah. Anyway, a lot of people claim that it can change colors between black and white and black and whatever it wants to do in between. There is an account of a couple in the 90s who were driving down the street, and of course, this giant black dog started crossing the street in front of their car. And as a matter of fact, they hit it. They hit the dog.
What?
They hit the dog. And so, of course, they get out upset that they just hit a dog. And, like people do. And they're looking for it. And it's gone. Up and disappeared. And this isn't the only legend like that. A lot of people claim to have that experience. A lot of times in the United States, when we have these black dog sightings, they are like running alongside vehicles. And they'll just kind of up and disappear. Or people will hit them and will feel the brunt of the force of the hit and get out and there's nothing there. So I don't know.
That sounds a lot like urban legends, or various kinds of urban legends, of course.
It does, yeah.
Where people will interact, especially on roadways, like drivers will seemingly interact with these apparitions that appear to be very much real flesh and blood people until they vanish. And again, like there's like no firsthand testimony for stuff like that. It very much is in the realm of urban legend where it's difficult to find an actual source or anybody that it's really happened to. But that's what it reminds me of.
Yes, unless you're a trucker. So this was my foray into phantom black dogs. I'll tell you.
Okay.
I ended up coming across a whole forum on the internet one time about truckers and whether or not they had seen the black dog. Such a popular and old urban legend that they made a whole fucking movie about it. It's called Black Dog. I've never watched it. I can't speak for it or anything. But it is about this. So as the story goes with truckers and their tales, they will randomly see a strange looking black dog on the side of the road. Sometimes it's laying there. Most of the time it's attempting to cross the streets, and then in the blink of an eye it vanishes. There is science to this. Truckers are not seeing random black dogs that appear and reappear and disappear on the side of the road. They also claim to see like tree people, what they describe as tree people. Tree people they will see a person on the side of the road, and as they get closer to it, it's not actually a person, it's a tree.
Oh, so they're hallucinating.
They're hallucinating. So they always, so truckers say basically, if you see the black dog, it's time to get the fuck off the road. Like that's the sign of that. And that is something
Right.
that happens with them. They push themselves to their limits in order to meet their quotas or to gain their bonuses or whatever. They're driving for 22 hours, and then they will start to hallucinate. So there is something to it. Again, are they actually seeing these weird black dogs? No, probably not. But let me tell you, when I was young, I used to party. Okay, a lot, and like I remember surviving off of like 2 hours of sleep a night. And we're not just talking like every once in a great while. I'm talking like I would do this for like months on end. And had I been driving around at the time, and I was not, but had I been driving around at the time, and one thing that we did as kids was like drive around and get high, right? We go on joyrides and stuff. Well, what was stopping us from having one of these hallucinations on the side of the road? Absolutely nothing.
Right.
So we can't say that the urban legends hold absolutely no water. It's just that are they actually seeing what they believed that they saw? Probably not. Probably not.
Sure. I mean, I find it interesting culturally that this shared phenomenon between truckers would manifest itself in a way that is commonly interpreted as a black dog. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that there has to be any sort of external significance to that.
Hmm.
What that could mean to me um, is, for instance, that dogs really just have a very important place in our culture, right?
Right.
And so they could have described it as a phantom cat or a wolf or a fox or any fucking quadruped. It doesn't matter. But no, instead we have black dogs
Hmm.
because there is no other species on the planet that is as close to us as fucking dogs. And it's been that
Yeah.
way for thousands and thousands of years,
Oh yeah.
So
You don't
yeah,
want
I
to hit
think this,
one. That's like the last thing that you want to hit on the road is a fucking dog.
oh
If,
yeah.
if I hit a dog, I would get out and then hit myself with my own car.
I stopped in the middle of the road. I was coming back from where the fuck was I coming back from? Someplace. I was out doing some weird shit for 40 in research or something, and I was coming back, and it was like the late morning, I think, and there were just two dogs in the middle of the fucking road,
Oh jeez.
and they clearly were from nearby. They had collars on. So I stopped my car, I put on my hazards, I get out. These dogs are super friendly. By the time my car was stopped, they're like at my door to come say
Like,
hi.
how you doing?
Yeah. Well, and at first I was worried because as soon as I started pulling up, they started coming towards me. And I'm like, well, if one of these idiots like dives underneath my wheel or something, like that's not going to end well because they had no fear of cars whatsoever. And so, yeah, I had to stop. I put my hazards on. Like I went and, like long story short, I managed to get them out of the street finally and find out where they fucking belonged. But like, I thought about that for the rest of the day. I was like,
Oh
I
yeah.
would be devastated if I hit one of those fucking dogs. And more than that, I care enough where I felt like I had no choice but to stop and make sure those dogs got home safe. And they weren't my dogs. I'd never seen these fucking dogs before. I was never going to see them again. But that's how strongly I feel about taking care of dogs,
Yeah. And most people do. I hate to say it, but dogs are definitely more popular than cats.
Yeah. I mean, I
Just
have both, but
culturally.
you're right.
Yeah, I mean, no, I love both. I have cats. I have part-time dogs. I love them all equally, but I think
Right.
culturally, dogs are definitely more popular. Um, and we definitely, and you don't see dogs running around like you do cats running around.
No.
And it's just different. We have a different type of social relationship with them. So I mean, the fact that the truckers are seeing dogs isn't surprising to me. A lot of truckers have dogs.
Sure.
Like they will choose, especially if they're like cross country truckers, like they will choose to have a dog companion that they will take around with them, right?
Oh, totally. That'd be awesome.
Right. And a dog companion is easier to keep than a cat companion. It's just the way it works, logistics.
Yeah. A dog will listen to you.
Right.
They would guard your truck. Sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, you don't have to keep a litter box in your truck. It just makes sense. So,
Right.
I'm not surprised at their dogs. Now, like I said, they also have things like tree people. Or is it really trees that turn into people, or people that turn into trees? Obviously not. Like
Right.
they're not really turning into trees. It's just that again, if you're a trucker and you're in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night and you come across a person on the side of the fucking highway, um, that would be jarring to you. That would be jarring to your psyche. And it's just your brain's way of, well, probably half hallucinating. You could start falling into some type of REM sleep at that point, or even your brain's way of saying, hey, wake up, fucker, and get off the road. Um, they've also reported seeing deer as well that weren't there. So it's
Right.
not like it's strictly dogs, but it it is a popular view of the phenomena itself. And there is something to it. There is a science to it. It's just that it's not supernatural.
Right.
It's psychological.
Sure.
you know. Like I said, I've never seen the movie. Maybe it's good. Maybe I should
Maybe.
have watched it before we did this episode. But that's where I came across phantom dogs in general, because we don't really have, like I said, we don't have them here. I live in an area where it's Dogman. Tobias, you live in an area where it's Dogman.
Pretty much. Like there are some like there is folklore in North America about black dogs, but most of it just came over as a part of European culture.
Yeah.
Like German and Irish, and well, really everybody native to the British Isles, and then parts of like mainland Europe, so like Germany and stuff. Like they have these black dog stories, and so when they came over here, they didn't just leave their stories behind; they brought them with, and so you do see them associated with particular areas. Like there's one, there's a small black dog said to haunt Meriden, Connecticut, out in
Mhm.
the Hanging Hills. There's black dogs associated with the Bridgewater Triangle, which is fun. Although I'm not a big fan of paranormal triangles in general.
What?
Um,
I'm just kidding.
no, I know, right? Which is another thing we got to talk. Like
Triangles?
we got to talk about triangles at some
Sure.
point. But anyway, so like the mid 1970s, like the town of Abington
Mhm.
in Massachusetts was reportedly terrorized by a large black dog, very similar to the kinds of black dogs we're talking about here. So
Well, and notice the demographic. Did you notice?
for what?
For all those places you're naming off, what is that called? It's New England.
Oh yeah. No,
The first area
I
that
thought
we
I said New England
colonized.
at some point.
Oh, did you? Maybe
Yeah.
you did, and I don't know, I wasn't listening because I'm rude. But I was thinking about triangles. No, but again, notice the area. It was the first area that we
Yeah.
colonized. I mean, oh,
Right.
shocker.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like all of these areas, these old ass areas, they just brought their stories with them, and so we do have them here. But you're right, it's nowhere near as prevalent because this country isn't old enough to really have stories of a black dog attacking a church from 1577. You know, like
Yeah.
we just don't.
Right. Yeah. We don't. As a matter of
We
fact,
weren't a country for like 200
um,
more years.
right. A lot of Native American folklore involving dogs is actually very positive. So they
Hmm.
have a different take on it. And of course, when I say Native American, again, I'm talking about nearly 600 federally recognized tribes, but with all different cultures. But a lot of them do have, different stories pertaining to different types of dogs or wolves or what have you. And again, they're seen in a very positive light. I believe it was the Chippewa who have a tale of a dog, of a wolf leading them to safety. They were kind of having issues finding a place to settle in the area, and they had a wolf that guided them to a finally, well, what they thought was a safe place. At least maybe it was until we showed up. Uh, and anyway, it's just seen in a very positive light. So definitely different sides of the spectrum there. Of course, they do have maybe other shape shifting entities or bad things that would appear to be dogs. or like coyotes are, can be seen in a negative light in that way. But they're
Sure.
not all negative stories when it comes to these phantom dogs, is my point.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
and that's fair. And that actually is a surprising aspect of this phenomenon too. And I guess we haven't got too much into the association that has been made between these sightings and other events. But yeah, the fact that they are so largely seen as negative is surprising to me. In that they're dogs, but I guess if you look at the rest of how they're portrayed, all black, glowing red eyes, like that shit's always associated with evil.
right.
So like that part is not super surprising then. But yeah, I mean, like maybe we should talk a little bit about what people expect, when they see these mysterious black dogs, right? So the big one that I am aware of is the phantom black dog as a portent of death. So like if you see this thing,
Hmm.
that is bad news. Like you're going to die, or somebody close to you is going to die. Something terrible is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and that's not a far jump when we kind of look at culturally where this idea of dogs and death comes from. So one example I'll use is just one because I think everybody knows it. Cerberus, right?
Yeah,
Who's
there
Cerberus?
you go.
The dog
The
that protects
three-headed
everyone.
dog.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Now Cerberus wasn't a monster. Cerberus
Well,
wasn't.
he was a monster, but he was just doing his
He
job.
was a good boy. Right.
He was.
Exactly. No, he was a very good boy. He wasn't out to hurt people, but he had the job to guard the underworld, right? That was his job. But of course the underworld, then there's the, oh, okay, well, here it's tied to death. Death, well, death is bad. Okay, so now we're at, okay, well, these things are just bad. But that's skipping ahead a little bit. Again, the origins just of dogs in general and kind of their role in the world have always kind of been a sort of a symbol for death in some type of way in Europe, specifically in Europe, for a long time. And I don't know who the
Right.
fuck made that rule. I disagree with them, but whatever. We're here. But yes, they tend to be kind of more of like a banshee in some of these cultures.
Right. Well, there is a let's see, WHC Pinchone in the Connecticut Quarterly way back in like the 19th century wrote, "If you meet the black dog once, it shall be for joy. If twice, it shall be for sorrow, and the third time shall bring death." And like I don't know that that's a hard and fast like rule or something, but it does give you an idea of the kinds of associations that people made with phantom black dogs. And more importantly, I think it really solidifies the uh the perception that seeing one meant something. Like there was something larger at play than just encountering this phantom black dog. It had more significance, like there was something more to it than just a sighting of an animal. Something was going to happen.
Right. And well, I don't know who wrote that. You said it was in the WCH Connecticut. Is that what you said?
WHC Pinchone
Oh,
wrote in the Connecticut Quarterly.
oh, okay. Well, it's the Connecticut Quarterly. That's got to be trustworthy. That's fact. 100%.
Agreed.
What is that based on? You know what I mean? Like I came across that too, but I didn't feel like deep dive in that part. But like, where does that? Who the fuck were they conducting experiments on people that have seen black dogs and figured out that, oh, they saw it the first time, right? They saw it the second time. Right, they saw it the first time and it was fine, right? They actually pet the dog and it was great. Then they saw it the second time, they're really depressed. Now they're dead, and they saw it again, and I summoned them. We had a seance, and they told me that's because they saw the black dog again. How do they know that?
Well, it's not boy. I Nobody did anything like that. You know what I mean? Like there was no research that went into this. That's the nature of folklore. I think that these were probably all common associations that people had made with
Yeah.
sightings of phantom black dogs, and as a sort of like convenient mimetic device to learn and pass on this folklore, they probably just developed this little saying for it. You know what I mean? And you see that a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a thing that it's recurring. It happens over and over again in folklore and in all forms of traditional knowledge. You know, when you're talking about people that most commonly would have passed on knowledge through word of mouth, like through storytelling more than anything, then I think it makes sense for them to have these very repeatable, easily learned sort of phrases and things. And they just catch on, you know. So yeah, I doubt it was anything like like anybody really doing like digging in and doing serious research about what happens at your first black dog sighting versus your third. You know, no, it's just like, well, this is all stuff that people have said is associated with it, and so we'll just put it in a fun phrase starting with like the best thing, like to the worst thing that can happen, and go from there.
They're like, bitches love poetry. If I write poetry about this, bitches will love me. And a legend was born.
You know, that makes sense.
We see it over and over again in history, doing things to get bitches. That's it, really.
as as Shug Monster, I should know.
Yep. So that's gonna be the name of your first album, Getting Bitches.
Yeah, that's why I write poems and turn them into hip hop.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It works. Ask the guy that wrote that little poem there. But
Seriously,
but no, it really is very urban legendy in its own right. But that doesn't necessarily, again, mean that there's not anything to it. I have had two different witnesses report what they both called hellhounds.
okay,
So I had one girl who reported to me that she actually had a hellhound spirit guide. And so this was not in a negative light. This was, of course, spirit guide in a positive light. She said that the spirit guide itself would kind of guide her through things. She said that she would see it both physically and in her dreams. She said that she would see it physically. One time she had an incident where, guess what? She was driving and it was running beside her car. And she was trying to make a particular turn. And before she could make that turn, it jumps in front of her car and prevents her from making said turn. So she continues on straight. Well, she said that later she had found out that night that there had been an accident on that road. And she really, she believed that had this animal not cross or whatever it was, cross in front of her, that would have been her in the accident. She said, again, it would come to her in dreams and it would talk to her about just different things. And it was never like full blown conversations. It was just kind of like letting her know if she was on the right track in life or maybe she was on the wrong track. Maybe she needed to reconsider some things and stuff like that. So very interesting to see it that way. Now, she did refer to it as hellhound. She is from the Appalachian area. So that's just kind of what they're called
sure.
there.
Well, I mean, that's one of the colloquial names that you had mentioned right at the very top, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, she didn't know what else to call it. That's what culturally, she was very afraid of it when she initially started seeing it, and she would see it on her property, kind of outside and kind of looming around, but never really getting close. It wasn't until she had that the first dream about it, where it was speaking with her about some personal situation she had going on, and then immediately after the incident with avoiding the car accident happened, where she kind of thought that maybe she could trust this thing. So it did take her a while to build that trust because culturally, again, she did grow up thinking that these were negative, spirits or demons, whatever.
Sure.
But had her mind changed. Now, on the flip side of that, I've got another person in Virginia who, again, Appalachian refers to it as hellhounds. They had an encounter with multiple of them. So this person is like an urban explorer. So they go and explore, abandoned buildings and stuff like that. They do some ghost hunting, all that fun stuff. And they were on a property one time, just a random house in the middle of the woods. While they were on that property, they heard howling in the distance. And they've got coyotes and stuff out there. That's not unusual. And of course, dogs themselves howl. But they said that they would hear the howling and then it would like trail off into like a horrifying, like more of like a human like moan. Not a good one, you know, like
Right.
like a Scooby Doo moan, "Ooh," like the ghost or whatever.
Sure. Not
And
like a porn moan.
well, yeah.
It's a scary ghost moan.
Scary ghost mode, yes. Scary ghost noises. And so they heard the one howling initially, and then the howling turned into multiple howling that seemed to be happening all around the house that they were at, and it just kept getting closer and closer. Which at that point they ended up leaving. Now they had to hike back through the woods a little bit because of where the house was at in order to get back to their car, but they were very scared the whole way. Trying to make it back to the vehicle, not knowing what was going to happen with these things getting closer and closer. Now, again, they thought that these were hellhounds. Of course, Appalachian lore has a lot of lore about weird sounds in the woods that you shouldn't follow and you should avoid at
Sure.
all costs. But yeah, those are the ones that I've had, so.
Well, what's interesting about Appalachia too is that area largely Scotch Irish. So they're going to bring a lot of those traditional stories, and you still see them around today,
Mhm.
So there's very little doubt to me that um, at least like the cultural framework within or from within these stories are being told is very similar to that of the people of Ireland and Scotland, who originated a lot of these legends talking about phantom black dogs and things.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean it makes perfect sense, and you do see that kind of stuff all the time. So like when you talk about people in Appalachia having all of these legends about like what noises not to follow when you're in the woods and shit. That is straight up fucking fairy lore, like straight out of the British Isles.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what that is, and
Yep.
that's where it comes from because that's where they come from.
Yep. Absolutely. And a fairy lore is attributed to these things a lot. There's a mass of information. I mean, if you guys are really, really interested in this topic, there is not a shortage of information on it. I promise you that. God, that was another thing I just didn't even pick up. It's just there's so much correlation between these phantom dogs and fairy lore.
Sure.
Some of them even have their own name. Go go look them up. I think one's the Grim is a popular one. Like it is a fairy, but it shapeshifts into one of these black dogs, which is really interesting.
Yep.
So again, just a whole nother gold mine of information. But listen, I know. Look, I know you guys listened to the Bigfoot episode last week. I already know the important question that you have here. Do you think that the phantom black dog's penis is bigger than Bigfoot's penis?
Same. It's the same.
It's the same. Well, they look the
Because
same.
well, it's both because Bigfoot has a weird dog dick. So it's going to be the same as the black dogs. It's exactly the same.
But is it the same? You think it's the same size?
I mean, roughly.
So
Sure.
Bigfoot still loses ratio wise. Poor Bigfoot.
I think that's how it works. Sure.
I'll tell you, when I was at Silent Disco, of course, I told people about my podcast. And I do this thing now, and it's super smart. Probably some people are here because I do this now, where if I'm talking to somebody about my podcast, I'm just like, just pull out your phone, look it up, and I'll follow podcasts for them on their phone. But I was talking to people at Silent Disco, and I was kind of, explaining the nature of the show. And I was like, well, this week we about 30% of the episodes just talking about Bigfoot's dick and what it looks like. And then, I started whole conversations with people talking about Bigfoot's dick. You know how many conversations I had about Bigfoot dick this weekend? It was a good weekend.
Nice.
Anyway.
You didn't even mention that when you were talking about your weekend.
I forgot. How could I forget? That was the best part.
How do you forget Bigfoot dick? He's got a weird dog dick. It looks like a fucking tube. It's a tube of lipstick coming out of a furry sheath.
And everybody, people weren't like shying away from it. Other people were like hearing this conversation and coming over. They're like, I never thought about what Bigfoot's dick looks like. And
It's because you don't listen to the right podcast.
Exactly.
Nobody else is asking the important questions like we are.
I got like 3 new listeners from that. So
Nice. Well done.
So I had to bring it up because
I think it's probably pretty comparable because these black dogs are largely like they're pretty large, and they really range in size from like a large dog, so you think like 80 to 100 pounds, to like crazy big, like as tall as a fence, so almost like horse sized. So yeah, it's probably comparable in size.
Anyway, I just, what we do here on the show is we ask the important questions. And I thought that was an important question to pose for the room. So,
yeah, that's totally fair. And you made some new friends.
I did.
And that, like the real Bigfoot dicks are the friends we made along the way.
It is. Yeah. Probably a lot of them can relate. You know what I mean? So good for them.
What? I'm not sure I do know.
I think I just said all my new friends have small penises. That was probably rude.
Oh, I thought maybe they had dog dicks. I don't know.
They might. I don't know. I haven't seen them.
Maybe.
They didn't show me.
Man.
So are we really even friends at all?
It's true. I always say you're not really friends with somebody until you've seen their dick.
Until you've seen their dick, right? Then it's true friendship.
Right. Totally normal.
Yeah, I just had to put that out there. Well, but let's talk about that. There are never any phantom dog puppies.
Yeah, because they're not real animals.
Well, okay, but if you're trying to lure people in with your evilness, have they never heard of killing them with kindness? It works.
I know, right? Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because I don't think they are trying to lure people in. You know what I mean? Like, from what folks say, it's a baffling phenomenon. And when it comes to the associations that people make, I don't even know that those are true associations so much as simply like projections of like our own fears that we put onto this phenomenon, like assuming that it is a real thing that people actually experience. And it sounds like it is. Then I think that it could be a sort of Mothman situation where like, oh, a bad thing happened once after somebody saw a fucking phantom dog and now they're all harbingers of doom. And meanwhile, these phantom black dogs are like, look, man, we're just fucking with you. And we have been for like centuries and you made it all weird. Now you're calling us harbingers. Like, come on, grow up,
Talking
guys.
about our dicks on podcasts. Although, thank you, it is bigger than Bigfoot's, so you got that right. No, so I think that, for instance, it's interesting to me that you brought up those firsthand encounters and experiences, because otherwise, one of the only more recent ones that I found, and you've probably heard of this. It was that the Bridgewater Triangle one that I mentioned. So like the black dog of Abington, right? And it really deserves its own episode. So I'm not going to get super into it, but in the like the mid 1970s, there was sightings of this huge black dog in this town, right? And it was like reportedly attacking livestock, and it was this whole big fucking thing. And what's really interesting about it is towards the end of this sighting flap, the police had tracked it to, I believe it was like a railroad, and shot at it, but the bullets did nothing. So up until then, you might be thinking, oh, okay, like that's just a feral dog or something that has gotten loose and is terrorizing the neighborhood. But no, like it truly was a sort of like phantom black dog in the mid 1970s in North America, right? Which is fascinating because that does speak to some kind of objective reality to the phenomenon. It doesn't prove it, but
it definitely goes a lot further towards I think arguing in favor of that possibility than centuries old fucking sightings from on the other side of the Atlantic, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean
Well,
it's interesting.
you're gonna love this. What about the dog that they shot at Skinwalker Ranch? You know, so
I
when
only care about dino beavers in coordination with
anything else is
Skinwalker Ranch.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Um,
Dino beavers and blue meanies.
well, speaking of things that are the old, we're filling out the old paranormal bingo card tonight. Triangles and ranches. Fuck.
I know,
Dino
right?
beavers.
You're right.
Um,
There was that big fucking I think they described it more as a wolf, but whatever. But it's
well,
close enough, you
it
know.
had come up. It had come up to them. They just moved onto the ranch. It had come up to the family. Was acting real friendly with everybody. Like they were able to
Yeah.
pet it and everything. And then all of a sudden, it starts going after one of their calves that was there. And because it was going after the calf, of course, the guy, I can't remember his fucking name, pulls out his gun and starts shooting at it. And he says he hit it, but it didn't care. It just, kind of was still trying to go after the calf a little bit. And eventually it did retreat. But, he didn't see any blood. He didn't see anything. He's
Right.
either a really terrible shot and, or he could be lying, or it was a similar phenomena. And we just, again, we look at it in a different perspective because much like with Mothman sightings, right? We just call it by a different name or look at it as a different phenomena entirely, which is silly.
Right.
But yeah, no, they had a very similar experience to the one that one you were just talking about. Yeah.
Well, and you're right, and that is really really interesting, and it reminds me of when you look at the entirety of the phenomena that's claimed to have happened at Skinwalker Ranch. There's it really runs the fucking gamut, everything from
Yeah.
UFOs to poltergeist activity to like weird monster and cryptid sightings and things. And it kind of puts me in mind of the sort of trickster element that people often talk about, and then when you relate that to the black dog phenomenon, then I think of fairies first and foremost, and I think more of like the puka, right? So like, in case people are not aware, the puka are these shape shifting Celtic fairies that are known for their mercurial nature and ability to bring both weal and woe. So, like most fairies, they are capricious. And it kind of depends on what kind of mood you catch them in and how you treat them. And that's going to determine whether they just fucking ruin your life or not, right? And so pukas are shapeshifters, and they can turn into a variety of different forms. Most popularly, probably horses, but black dogs are in the mix. Like yeah, they can also do black dogs, and so I'm not saying that like Skinwalker Ranch is fairies or this dog was a puka. What I'm saying is it's interesting to me to see some of these connections, no matter how tenuous, that seem to exist between phenomena cross culturally. The idea is, I think, that it's possible that this all speaks towards a larger invisible world, like some kind of hidden reality that has been with us forever, and we only see the bits and pieces of that we manage to interact with ever, or that really interacts with us because it holds all the cards. And based on that, we've created all of this fucking folklore. We've told all of these stories and made all of these associations between it and our own personal like fears and cultural biases that we've projected onto it. But there is some kind of root phenomenon there, and that's what I think of when I hear something like the Skinwalker Ranch story, and then compare it to like Abington, Massachusetts in the 70s, and then compare that to pukas and black shuck, and the snarly yow
Yep.
and all of this other shit, like there's
Yep.
something there. It's just very difficult for us to grasp.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I agree with that. Maybe you guys should have kept out that your string and your board. Um, are there connections here? I think so, yes, and I agree that there is some type of root cause to it, and we are just fucking way off the mark as to what that root cause looks like. I would hope that we're closer to it, but I don't think so, because I don't think anybody at all opened up this episode today to listen to it and expected us to talk about Skinwalker Ranch. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Right.
think so. Which is fine. It just means that we are clearly the superior podcast of the world, and you have great taste. You're in the right spot.
We did it.
Uh,
We did it, guys.
we know things. Um, so no, I absolutely agree 100% with what you're saying. And I didn't even doing my research in the episode, I'm going to be honest with you, like none of that really occurred to me until we kind of started talking it out.
Right.
Even like the connection that I made earlier between like the Snarly Yow and the West Virginia White Thing, like that didn't occur to me. Skinwalker Ranch story, didn't remember it until you brought up that story. So I'm sure it goes even deeper than that, but without our little string and board, we'll never get there. And there's just so much of it. There's not enough string or big enough boards in the world
Oh,
to
yeah.
cover it. Black dogs are definitely one of the oldest phenomena to exist. We aren't even entirely sure exactly where the origins of it come from. And there is stories of similar creatures, again, all around the world. In pop culturally, it is popular in the British Isles. Like, that's where it's big. But you can find them everywhere. I'm sure Africa has them. Well, they do. I mean, we didn't even talk about like Anubis, right?
Sure.
Anything like that. I'm sure South America has them. I'm sure Canada's got them. I'm sure they're all over the place. So it is a vast, interesting topic, and I think that we can't even do it justice unless we really went name by name and told all the stories.
I think what we should do later on, I think this is a sort of nice overview of the
Yeah,
phenomenon, but really digging into specific
cases.
instances
Yeah.
of black dog sightings would
Hmm.
go, I think that would go over really well,
Yeah.
because I think there is enough to them. That's like I said before when I mentioned the Bridgewater Triangle
Yeah.
sightings.
It's
Like
its
it
own
deserves
thing.
its own episode. Like those specific black dog sightings should have their own episode
Yeah.
because there's too much for us to talk about in an overview of the phenomenon. But I think that episodes like this are important and they're good because they can serve to introduce people to something that maybe they haven't heard of, and you'll have context. So when we go and do further episodes about black dog sightings, like specific ones, like deep dives into specific sightings, then you'll have that context.
Yeah.
Like you'll have something to work with, so it makes a little more sense.
Yeah, when we were talking about these topics being accessible to people, one thing that I thought about was like, what if like paranormal books were like grade school books, and like you had like level 1, right, and then level 2.
Yeah.
This is the level 1 episode when it comes to these black dogs. Definitely, because absolutely it is such a vast topic, and it can really actually be very difficult to do these episodes when there's so much information and
Oh yeah.
make it good. So hopefully people have enjoyed what they've heard, and hopefully we've definitely given a good introductory into the topic. If you guys want to hear more black dog phenomena, well, when I build the schedule, I put it out there and you guys get to choose. You get to recommend your topics and what you want to hear on the show. So definitely make sure you check those out. But you have to follow us on social media to do that. And you can do that now, specifically not just myself or Tobias, but you can just follow the podcast itself. It's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's on where else is that? Twitter, I guess.
Sure.
It's out there. Follow it, interact, so you can hear the topics that you want to hear. Tobias, any closing comments on the phantom black dog phenomena?
Oh boy. I always feel like I should have closing comments and I don't always have something super interesting or profound to say. So like on this, I feel like, I don't know. I think I have said what I have to say so far, and I think we did a reasonable job of it. So I'm good.
Yeah, no was a complete sentence. Just I just like to offer you the floor. Give you
No,
that
I
final
dig
moment.
it. Thank you.
Give you the chance to say what you have, what your burning wishes.
Well, often I have
Like
my Jerry Springer ending that
you
I'll
do,
do, but like for
yeah.
this one, because it's not, it's so broad. I don't really have like this thesis that I have,
No,
like I'm laser focused on, that I've narrowed down from everything else. There's no distillation here for me to
yeah,
just summarize at the end of this. It's
it's
just
an
like it's a whole thing, and it's fucking weird, and it's connected to all this other stuff. So stay tuned. That's
it's an
basically it.
overwhelming topic. So I will leave it then on. Well, no was a complete sentence, and we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.